Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host today, Mike Bailey, along with
Ellen Diplacido
Ellen.
calling in.
Okay, calling in again.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
Yes.
We are. What's that? Social distancing? Is that what we're called?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know what? This is working really well. We're going to keep this up, right, Mike?
You don't like coming over to see me, do you? Okay, fine.
Oh, I do. I do.
No, I understand. I understand. Okay. but last time around we talked about starting a vegetable garden, and all we got to was we talked about the greens versus the a truer vegetable. Okay, in their requirements from a sunshine perspective in particular, right? Okay, with
Right.
the things like your truer vegetables, what you call them, sunny vegetables or something like that. Okay,
Whatever they call
I like that. I liked whatever name you
I
had.
got to look it up.
You
I got
got
to
to
look it up.
look that up
I'll
again.
know the next time.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's that sunshine requirement. The greens probably 4 or 5 hours of direct sunshine, whereas your truer vegetables, really look for 8-9 hours. Okay, primarily between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 or 7 p.m. if you can get 8 hours in there, I guess.
Yeah.
But now we want to move on to soil, right?
Soil. We decided we're going to talk about soil next.
Yeah, it's an important issue, isn't it?
It is because, even if you have the sun and not good soil, it's going to be a problem.
You're right. And if I can digress for one moment, okay, and
Okay.
I always do, you know that.
You always do.
One of the things that we talk about when Ellen and I occasionally will get called on to do a garden talk. Somebody wants to listen to us, believe it or not. Okay, and what I encourage people to do is if you're going to consider a particular area for a garden, especially if it's in the city, you got a vacant lot, etc., go and stick a shovel in that ground to make sure there's ground there and not rubble, if you will.
Right.
And even at our gardens here, right in town, up in Erie, we have a terrible time. Okay, and that's why we have raised beds for the most part and mounded beds for the most part because they tore down houses and they filled these things in with debris, and it's very difficult to put a shovel into that ground. In fact, my wife and I were thinking of buying a piece of property recently, and then at the last minute I said to the realtor, I go, I have to follow my own instructions. I got to go take a shovel and I got to go around and stick it in the ground. Guess what?
What's there?
Yeah, you're right. I found a bunch of rubble. I couldn't get that shovel into the ground for more than 2 or 3 inches at hardly any piece on the property. And as I investigated, I investigated a little further, and guess what? They dumped a bunch of debris there from roads. The blacktop they pulled up, this concrete that they pulled up. So obviously, and that's we didn't go through with the sale because of that. Okay, because it wasn't.
You want to make sure you know the history of that property. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was there before.
Yeah, you got to know a little bit about what that was used before. So, just a word of caution. I'm sorry, I just had to mention that. But soil is really a key element. Soil is not just something that holds your plant in place, is it?
No, it provides the food and the nutrients that your plant needs.
You're right. It provides that food and that nutrients. Okay, there's a tremendous plant structure underneath that soil level. Okay, that is not only supporting but providing all those nutrients and that moisture to that plant. And if if that structure of the plant is not good, okay, what's above the soil is not going to look very good either.
Right.
And one of the main requirements of that soil is what, Ellen?
Is the organic and then the pH value of the soil?
Yeah, that organic material, because that that organic material is the material that feeds all of the biological activity that takes place in the soil. If you don't have some good organic material in that soil, you're not going to have the beetles, you're not going to have the ants, you're not going to have the worms, you're not going to have the spiders, that are really needed, and you're not going to have the bacteria and the viruses and the funguses in particular, that are in that soil, because they're so very, very important. Because what they do, those beetles and those worms and things like that, they break the organic material down from, from the leaves, into or the grass clippings, etc., into smaller pieces, and then they are in turn then attacked by, the viruses and the bacteria and the funguses in the soil. And what they do is they release the minerals that's in that organic material to make it available to the plants. Okay,
right.
So in fact, the plants in the biological activity in the soil, they actually have a nice little working relationship with each other. The plants up above, through the process of photosynthesis, create sugars, and they actually send some of that sugar down through the vascular system of the plant into the roots, and they will actually release some of those sugars, to the bacteria in the funguses especially, in those, because they need that. They can't create that on their own. And then what they do in turn for the plant, they release these minerals which the plant can now take up, because you're not going to have a plant create proteins and nutrients, without the assistance of that organic material or that biological activity in the soil, that availability of nutrients. So, that organic material is so very, very important. Okay?
It's really important, especially if you're just starting. You really probably, before you plant anything, is add some organic material to that soil that you have there.
And when you're talking about organic material, Ellen, what in particular are you talking about?
Well, I mean, you could add, if you don't have a compost, you could actually add some, get some compost from a reputable dealer.
You're right.
You can get compost in a bag.
Yeah.
But it's always good if you can add, like maybe I would think if you're ready to plant and you haven't done anything to your soil previously, I would add compost, organic compost.
Right.
To that soil.
And Ellen says doesn't particularly care for the stuff in the bags. Ellen, it's already 7.5 minutes in.
I know. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to, come to a closure here for this particular program, and we're going to pick up this very topic, on our next session. But I think everything that we talked about today was important. Take a look at that soil, take a look at that garden site, before you make an investment in it, and then you got to think about adding organic material. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that next time around. So until next time,
okay.
Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate that. Bye-bye.
Okay. Mm-hmm.